Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on another episode of Rank the Movies, which is a kind of misleading name for this month, as I'm not talking about movies. I'm going to be talking about the Royal Rumble. I'm an old school wrestling fan. I've enjoyed wrestling since I was a kid. I took a break after I graduated college, but I've gotten back into it recently thanks to Brian Zane over at Wrestling with Regret. That is really how I got interested in wrestling again. Also, let me tell you that fighting through Titan Towers for Money in the Bank, that was worth the $10 for the network right there. So, but the Royal Rumble was always my favorite pay-per-view. In fact, the first Rumble we're covering this week is my all-time favorite Rumble, mainly for nostalgic purposes. So I'm just going to talk each week about a different Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I'm not going to go into as much detail as a lot of other YouTubers who talk wrestling. I mean, if you want that kind of detail, please check out Wrestling with Regret with Brian Zane, or What Culture Wrestling is another great YouTube source. This is just me talking about something I enjoy and something I love. I am going to stick to a very specific decade of Royal Rumbles, and that is 1991 to 2001. Those will be the bookenders. I'm starting with 91, I'm ending with 2001, and I'm going to have two Rumbles in between that I'm going to talk about. And I might touch base on some of the other ones that led into the one I'm talking about. So as I said, today I am talking about the 1991 Royal Rumble. Hopefully I have added a graphic of its poster somewhere around me. If I haven't, I just sounded like a jackass. So either way, hopefully got a smile off of that. Alright, so this is the fourth Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I am wrong. I'm sorry, this is the second. You know what? I have the Royal Rumble Anthology box sitting right in front of me. I just should use it because that is why it exists. Also because I love the Royal Rumble, and I'm going to keep this even though I'm paying for the network. And I can literally watch any Rumble off of the WWE network. This is the fourth Royal Rumble, the third one to be on pay-per-view. As the first one, won by Hacksaw Jim Duggan, was just a special that ran on USA. Big John Studd won the first pay-per-view Rumble. This was before WrestleMania was a thing, before the champion got to go to Mania. Hulk Hogan then won the 1990 Royal Rumble, which led into his match against the Ultimate Warrior. So he actually won it as world champion. This is a feat that would be repeated down the line. The world champion would win the Rumble. Obviously, there are Rumbles where the world title was on the line in 1992, and I believe in that decade I really wasn't watching wrestling. There was another Rumble for the title where the champion defended in the Rumble. I want to say it was Roman Reigns who was defending, and it was won by Triple H. I could be wrong. Again, I haven't tried to catch up on the decade of wrestling I missed, other than what I pick up from the YouTube channels that I watch. Alright, so the 1991 Royal Rumble. I have a list of information here, but there are some facts I did not write down. So I'm actually going to use the discs, because let me tell you, this set has got a lot of great information. It was in the Miami Arena in Miami, Florida. That was the information I was looking for, is where the crap it was. It was in Miami, Florida. You have Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper on commentary. A lot of people don't like Roddy Piper's commentary style. I love it. I think it's great. I owned this one on VHS when I was a kid. I watched the crap out of the 1991 Royal Rumble. And to the fact that I actually have a poster for it out in my living room. Alright, so the Royal Rumble starts with the Orient Express and the Rockers going one-on-one in a tag team match. This is a pretty good tag team match. If you really want to see Shawn Michaels in his tag team prime with Marty Jannetty, this is the match. This is a great match to watch. They're very energetic. Unfortunately, this is late Orient Express. Not that the Orient Express was ever a big top-tier tag team, but this was late where they literally are putting a guy in a mask on the team because he's not Asian. I can't remember who, off the top of my head, wore the mask, because I know Pat Tanaka was the half of the team that was unmasked because he was Oriental, and the other half was a white dude. So they put him in a mask. The match ends. The Rockers pick up the win. And it's a pretty entertaining bout. I've always enjoyed this one. It's a great way to start a pay-per-view. And I think it's a great version of of Shawn Michaels' skill as a younger wrestler. I'm going to avoid the backstage segments. I have them on the rundown I have in front of me. I'm just going to avoid them because there's not a lot there. If I think there's something worth mentioning, I will. Right off the bat, probably the only one really worth mentioning is an interview with the Macho King that comes after that match, mainly because it also turns into an interview with the Ultimate Warrior, where the sensational Queen Sherri shows up and tries to talk Warrior into giving the Macho King a title match, which is ridiculous because Macho Man Randy Savage would actually be injured up until right before WrestleMania. I mean, he had been for a while. He wasn't at the 4th Annual Survivor Series, not in a wrestler's capacity as well. Anyways, so he's actually injured, but she's begging the Warrior, trying to seduce the Warrior into giving Savage a match. The Warrior tells her to screw off, and the segment ends. We then have the Barbarian taking on the Big Boss Man. This is a big guy fight. This is just two big guys doing their work. This is part of the long-running feud between the Big Boss Man and Bobby the Brain Heenan, who happens to be a manager. Bobby keeps putting Boss Man up against his guys. This would come to a head at WrestleMania, where he would fight Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title, and lose, because the Big Boss Man never won a title until the late 90s in the World Wrestling Federation. I also don't think he did that well in WCW. Anyways, it's a good big house fight. Boss Man wins with a Boss Man Slam. And we move on. I might be very wrong with who wins these matches, but I'm pretty sure Boss Man comes out on top of that match. We then move on to Sergeant Slaughter taking on the Ultimate Warrior. Warrior does cut a promo at this event, but it's nothing to write home about. It's not one of the great Warrior promos. So either with Sherri when she's trying to seduce him, or when he's just cutting his promo before the world title match, it's just not worth it. So Sergeant Slaughter is doing his Iraqi sympathizer gimmick during the Gulf War. So, lovely, well-timed gimmick, and he's fighting the Ultimate Warrior for the world title. It's an Ultimate Warrior match. Sergeant Slaughter is definitely no longer in his prime. I don't think I ever have seen a match of Sergeant Slaughter in his prime. I know he's supposed to be a really talented wrestler, but I don't think I've ever seen it. I think I've only seen these Sergeant Slaughter matches from the early 90s when he's definitely going downhill. But he's still a draw, so they're still using him. The match ends when Macho King Randy Savage shows up, smashes his scepter over the Ultimate Warrior's head, the ref doesn't see it, and Sergeant Slaughter locks on the camel clutch, and the Warrior taps out. Or the match is called Sergeant Slaughter becomes... You know what? It's not the camel clutch. He just pins him. I'm sorry. He just pins him. He doesn't camel clutch him for the win. He just pins him. So Sergeant Slaughter is the new world champion until WrestleMania, and we'll get to more about that later. So that's the end. Savage sitting there going, "Warrior, give me a title match. Warrior, give me a title match." And he costs him the title because Sergeant Slaughter is going to give him the title match. Which I don't think ever happens. I don't think Macho King and Sergeant Slaughter fight for the title, because you can't sell tickets to that. Who are you rooting for in that one? Following that is a match that I had never seen before I owned this DVD copy of it, because it was edited out of the VHS version, and that is Koko B. Ware taking on the Mountie. This is really early in the Mountie's push. If you can't figure it out, the Mountie is a Canadian Mountie. He's dressed like it. He has Jimmy Hart as a manager, and he beats Koko B. Ware. I get why they cut this match. It's not great. We get a bunch more backstage segments that don't have really anything of great interest. The one thing that I know isn't on the DVD in the Anthology collection or on the network, but was on my VHS copy, was more interviews with guys. And I remember one really clearly of Mr. Perfect. He's doing push-ups, talking about how he's going to win the Royal Rumble with the Intercontinental title sitting on a chair. I've watched this version of the event. I've watched the network version. I cannot find that scene. I could be wrong. Maybe this is Mandela effect, but I swear to God I remember that. Alright, we're up to our penultimate match. Ted DiBiase and Virgil taking on Dusty and Dustin Rhodes. This is the first time Dustin Rhodes wrestles for WWF, and it's one of the few times he does it not as Goldust. It's a pretty decent match. Dustin is starting to show what makes him a great wrestler even today. I love Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man. Ted DiBiase is my favorite wrestler of all time, so this is a great match for me in that respect. It's also a huge moment for him because DiBiase and Virgil win, which ends this long-running feud DiBiase has had with Dusty Rhodes since the summer, and basically ends Dusty Rhodes' time with WWF. This is the last pay-per-view appearance he makes. I think he makes a few more television appearances after this, but this is his last pay-per-view appearance. After the match, Virgil gets pissed off at DiBiase, and because he's been the downtrodden manslave of DiBiase for the better part of 5 years, he finally turns his back on Ted and walks away, setting up Ted's next feud with Virgil, which does not go well because Virgil, he tries. We then have the Royal Rumble match itself. For those of you who have no idea, who have sat through this video and still have no idea what the Royal Rumble is, it is a battle royal where you have 30 participants, and 2 participants start, and then every minute to 2 minutes after, depending on the Rumble, another guy enters until all 30 men are in. It's over the top rope. Both feet touching the floor is the only way to win. Last man standing wins. I'm not going to go over every entrant and every elimination from the Rumble. It has a great performance by Rick Martel, who ends up being the guy who sets the record that's broken the next year by Ric Flair, but he sets the record for longevity in the Rumble. He looks great in this thing. I'm surprised. Rick Martel, Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase, all fall into a very nice category of wrestling heels who, if they had just been born 10 years later, so they would have been wrestling in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, they all would have been world champions. They all would have had the Triple H spots. Because back in the 80s and early 90s, we didn't want heel champions. Like, Sergeant Slaughter is the first heel champion since the Iron Sheik. No, I'm sorry, since Randy Savage. He turned heel while he was champion. He started off as a face, turned heel, and then dropped the belt right away. So again, Randy Savage turns heel, he drops the belt. A month and a half later, I think it's something in that logistical nightmare. And Sergeant Slaughter is a heel. He's going to lose the belt in 2 months. This is before people want the champion they can root for. They want Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior or Randy Savage when he was face. This match also has one of the worst gimmicks ever. Saba Simba, Tony Atlas, great wrestler, playing African tribesman. It's a horrible gimmick. It's hilarious. Look clips up. It's a good time. But the magic comes down to Hulk Hogan and his enemy, who he's been feuding with all winter since the summer. So summer, fall, and winter, he's been feuding with the Earthquake, or the Canadian Earthquake, depending on which point of the feud you're in. Guess what? He's Canadian. It comes down to Hogan and Earthquake. Hogan eliminates Earthquake, which apparently is the end of their feud, on television anyways. That's a great way to end a feud. I eliminated you! We're done wrestling each other. And Hulk Hogan moves on to challenge Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania. Although this match doesn't have that stipulation, it just so happens Hulk Hogan wins this Rumble and then goes to WrestleMania. Because that stipulation wouldn't be put in effect until '93. And that is the 1991 Royal Rumble in a nutshell. I've loved this event since I was a kid. I watched the hell out of that VHS tape I had. I don't have it anymore. I wish I did, because I'd have it sitting right here. For probably all the videos, actually. I'd probably have it sitting there. I hope you like my rambly talk about wrestling. Again, please check out Wrestling with Regret or What Culture Wrestling for better reviews on pay-per-views. Or, whatever your YouTube choice is for wrestling. If you like what you see, hit subscribe so you make sure you get to see the next 3 Rumbles I'll be talking about between here and 2001. Comment if you have something you want to say. Maybe I totally botched a part of this video and I gave the wrong winner. Because I'm pretty sure I gave all the right winners. I'm not 100% sure. Leave me a comment to let me know. Or just any other thoughts you have. Maybe you also really love this Rumble. I mean, I would love to hear from people who also really love this particular Royal Rumble. Yeah. I will see you next week when we move forward in time a few years to another historic WWF Royal Rumble. See you then.